Blog Talk Radio.
Welcome to the show. Good evening. This is Jane with Blog Talk Radio. Wade's on the line, and hopefully Don and Albert will call in. So tonight's episode, we're going to look into the background of Brett Kavanaugh and see exactly some things that people haven't mentioned. There's things that are important about his background that people have not mentioned. He was born in 1965. He's an American attorney and a jurist who currently serves as the U.S. Circuit Judge in the Court of Appeals to the District of Columbia Circuit. He is currently a nominee of the Associate Justice of the Supreme Court of the United States. He graduated from Yale cum laude with a degree in American history, where he was a member of a fraternity, Delta Kappa Epsilon. After graduating from Yale Law School, Kavanauh began a career as a law clerk and then a postgraduate fellow working under Judge KenStarr. After KenStarr left the D.C. Circuit to take position as the head Office of Independent Counsel, Kavanauh followed him to the OIC, the Office of the Independent Counsel, and assisted Starr with various investigations, including Bill Clinton. He played a lead role in drafting the Starr Report, which urged impeachment of President Bill Clinton. That's important to note because Clinton had an interpersonal affair in the Oval Office. By the way, he never sexually attacked Monica Lewinsky. They just had a consensual relationship. However, it never led to full intercourse. After 2000 U.S. presidential election, in which Kavanauh worked for George W. Bush campaign in the Florida Recount, Kavanauh joined the administration as the White House staff secretary and was a central figure in its efforts to identify and confirm judicial nominees. Kavanauh was first nominated to the U.S. Court of Appeals for the D.C. Circuit by President Bush in 2003. Now, I find that kind of be a conflict of interest, that he worked in the administration of the White House staff secretary, identifying and confirming judicial nominees, and then he ended up becoming one. His confirmation hearings were contentious. They stalled for 3 years over charges of partisanship. Kavanauh was ultimately confirmed to the D.C. Court Circuit in 2006. That's not very long ago. After a series of negotiations between Democrats and Republican senators, an analysis covering the period of 2003 to 2018 found that Kavanauh had the most or second most conservative voting record in the D.C. court in every policy area. One thing I wanted to mention is that one of my cohorts outside of the radio show said that he was in charge of affirming, broadening the constitutional role of the executive branch, which is the president, which would work to Donald Trump's favor. I'm not going to go in much further. I'm just going to read one more sentence about his background. I want to get my co-host on the line. I just want to mention he was raised in Bethesda, Maryland. As a teenager, he attended Georgetown Prep School, a Catholic all-boys high school, where for 2 years, he was 2 years senior to future U.S. Supreme Court Neil Gorsuch. So he had a connection to one of the Supreme Court justices. At Georgetown Prep, he was captain of the school's basketball team and played wide receiver and cornerback for the football team. He graduated in 1983. He was friends with Mark Judge. And by the way, Mark Judge wrote a book, and he had a fake character named Kavanauh, in which he talked about his drunkenness. Albert and Don are on the line. I just want to read a post by one of my friends on Facebook. I wrote, please stay on the line, you guys. I just have 1 more minute of talking. Okay, I made a post this weekend on Facebook, which I knew was going to be controversial. I wrote, if I kissed Jay Barnett June 4th, 1978 on Julie Benson's lawn, the day after graduation, how come Christine Blasey Ford can't remember where she was at when she was assaulted, exactly what month and at least the month and the year that she was assaulted and stuff like that. Like, I'll just read the whole post. Screw it. Just a second. If I can remember, I kissed J.B. on Julie Benson's lawn on June 4th, 78. Why can't Christine Blasey Ford remember where the sexual assault happened at? Details. I know she has a strong belief in her story, but she should have at least had one high school friend corroborate it. So that was my original opinion before, of course, my Democrat friends and liberal friends got pissed off. And some people said it was okay what I wrote. My friend Renata Faith wrote back, "Oh, Jane, I understand your point, but I beg of you, please don't compare your backyard kiss to what she experienced. You don't know what she did emotionally or otherwise to cope with the extreme trauma of a sexual assault. She was alone, frightened, embarrassed, and worried about her parents' reaction if they found out. She lived for decades with that shame. Details? She likely worked very hard to block out what she could, and if not for the sheer terror of what happened, she would have preferred to forget that too. But she couldn't. She acknowledged her story which may lack critical details, yet she came forward anyways at a great personal cost. That takes guts, and women all over this country are saluting her for it. One step forward for those without a voice." Then my Wade actually wrote, "I understand that she doesn't remember the details. I certainly believe that can happen. Problem is, if details cannot be remembered, then it's possible she remembers the wrong person. It makes me furious when they say just believe women because that means just assume the man is guilty. That's extreme inequality if one group can get another group convicted with just a claim and no evidence even needed, which is what I hear Democrats saying. This is one of the main reasons the Democrats getting power terrifies me. People should be given a presumption of innocence no matter what they were born as and no matter who is being accused." And then I'm going to let you guys in now. One of my friends who was sexually abused said that she did everything she could to suppress the abuse, and she purposely tried to suppress what happened to her. So first we'll say hi in order of calling in. Hi, Wade.
Hey, how's it going?
Good. Hi, Albert. Albert's on the line somewhere. Hi,
Being
Don.
shy.
Hello, Jane, Wade, Albert.
Hey, Don.
You're on the line somewhere.
Don, I know you had the Freedom Banquet this weekend. Did you have something going on today, too?
Just work. We're coming down to the end of our election, and it's our Pat. If you want to talk, you can.
Who?
No.
Don't worry about Pat. He'll be talking when he has a chance. Sometimes he puts the phone down. Okay, go ahead, Don.
No, it was a happy event until she just can't shut up. It's our 35th wedding anniversary today, and so I was
very nice.
Thank you.
And what did you guys do?
Well, nothing.
What did y'all do?
She wants money, so I worked all day. And so we've got our grandkids here for October break. So we're just playing grandparents and enjoying the day. It's a beautiful day out here.
Yeah, Minnesota ended up being warm and nice today, too.
I guess
it wasn't. There were snow flurries on Friday night here.
I guess it's supposed to be.
Wade, did you have a good weekend, and did you fly?
I did, yeah. I came back from a trip just yesterday, I think.
Oh,
Was it
good.
yesterday? Yeah.
Cool. So listen, guys. So let's. I'm happy to hear that. Let's not lose the flow of the conversation. So The headliner tonight is Brett Kavanaugh a drunk with a bad memory, similar to Ted Kennedy at Chappaquiddick? Is he a male oppressor or is he innocent? Who wants to start?
Okay.
Wait, why don't you start based on what you wrote on my wall?
Yeah, boy, free speech and presumption of innocence. Those are hugely important to me because, you know, it's so easy to just accuse someone of something. So what a great way to get people, right? I mean, if we can just assume, if you don't have to prove and back up a claim, then you can just say anything to anybody you don't like, and bam, they're in trouble. And that's what I'm hearing is when people say, just believe her. Well, listen to her, right? Don't assume a woman's lying, which I don't know of anybody in my circles that would do that, right? So she gets a presumption of innocence too. We're not going to assume she's a liar. But anytime somebody makes an accusation, they're also making themselves, they're making the person a potential whatever they're accusing them of, but they're also a potential slanderer, right? I remember there was a scene in one of the Harry Potter movies where Harry Potter's like, I know who did it, Malfoy did it. And the teachers had the right reaction. They're like, well, that's a big, that's quite an accusation. Do you have, can you back that up, right? Like, that's how we should react. We have to make sure claims are true. And I'm not sure, I haven't been hearing people.
Elements. The only thing, can I just say one or two observations based on what you said? Okay, up until I turned the television on Thursday or Friday morning, I believe it was Thursday, I didn't know what to think, but one fact that I found out is that Christine Blasey Ford had emailed the Congressional Committee way back when he was on the short list, before he was cherry-picked as the one to be. So one thing I found out is that she didn't just bring it out in the public news a week ago. She brought it forth to some key people in Washington, D.C., well over probably the end of June, because he was handpicked July 9th. The second thing I found out is that when I actually watched her testimony and looked at her, she wasn't polished. She was nervous as a cat. Her hair hung in her face. She was terrified. She brought up some specific details about her counseling experience, which I don't really know precisely. I know that she mentioned Brett Kavanaugh's name twice in marriage counseling, but she didn't mention it in other therapy counseling, which it does disturb me a little when she confided to her friends along the years. She did not specifically say his name. Like, let's say I was in high school and I got sexually assaulted. First of all, I don't know if it was in 78, I may or may not have reported it to the police. But the second thing is I know if I confided it to my personal friends, I definitely would have said the name. And now that I'm friends with over 60 of high school friends on Facebook, I would have at least told one of those people, and one of those people would have remembered me telling them, and they would have corroborated my story. So that's what I just wanted to add. You can finish what you were saying, just in a I know what you were saying was pretty general and not specific to the case, but a lot of people have taken the axe. Now, today, I think Kellyanne Conway's pretty smart, even though a lot of people hate her, but she said this isn't like the Bill Cosby case or something like that. This is like a movie way back in high school, This is a memory way back when she was 15 and the guy was 17. Like, that's pretty far deep into the past. So does anything that I said just now change or add to your perspective, Wade?
I think a lot of it's what I had heard, and there's just so many. It's just not a strong case, right? I mean, and people say, well, it's a job interview, it's not a criminal trial. Well, still, I know in my job, nobody can just accuse me and they're not going to fire me. Like, they're still going to, they're still going to give me a chance, and somebody still has to prove that I did something.
I think
or,
one of the
make
key
it pretty
things
obvious.
too is he barely got into the D.C. District Circuit Court of Appeals. Like way back in 2006, the Democrats and Republicans had to do special negotiations. Now, I heard one of the NPR radio hosts, National Public Radio, will say that in this situation, before Jeff Flake stepped forward and asked for the FBI to get involved, in this case, the Republicans and the Democrats not only were super uncooperative with each other, the following morning after she testified, the Democrats walked out entirely off the Senate floor and the congressional floor, and they refused to deal. It was kind of like a standstill. The other thing to keep in mind, I'm going to have Don and Albert contribute next, but there was some kind of contingency that it slipped my mind now, but I'll try to think of it. Don, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
So, Don, what was that other contingency with the vote before Jeff Flake stepped up? I remember. MSNBC announced that the FBI is going to limit the background check of Brett Kavanaugh to just those current 3 women who accused him. But one of my Republican friends made a point that Brett Kavanaugh's already passed a number of litmus tests, being that he served as a White House assistant to the White House press secretary, and he served in all these capacities on the Florida Recount and the Starr Commission. The only thing that disturbed me is that he was in the Bush White House determining who was going to be chosen to be considered for judgeships in the Circuit Court and the highest Supreme Court, but yet he was serving in the role of picking those people, and then 3 years later he got picked to be on the U.S. District Court. Any comments, Don?
Not really. The Brett Kavanaugh case is emblematic of the problems in our system of cultivating and inculcating youth with curriculum or teachings that are extreme, mainly because this was a culture that at Yale he was involved in trying to apparently, and this is a psychologist's job or a psychiatrist's job in this case, wanting to be included in their I won't say fraternity, but in their group culture, gang, whatever you want to call it. And the way to do it is be drunk, be bodacious, and be a rapist. He didn't go that far, but he went into coercion and other potential felonies that I assume the statute of limitations has already expired. But we're looking at a gentleman who probably has a propensity to, at least at that time, be the kind of person you say boys will be boys, and you're looking at Animal Kingdom or something like that while you're saying that. The gentleman, for me, this is a victory, not because of Brett Kavanaugh and his apparent assault on these 2 ladies, which cannot in and of themselves independently be corroborated, but the tendency and the it would just be he said, she said type of thing after 30 years, type of report after 30 years that a lot of people did. So, that doesn't bother me. The thing that bothers me is that he is going to be ripe for being the mouthpiece of the far right. He certainly has shown that he's he's kind of soft on Trump, with the tendency of his admitting at some point that the presidency cannot be an impeachable office. And the other thing, though, that really bothered me is Roe v. Wade and the women's right to choose. They can go back and say that abortion isn't legal at 2 months. They've already cut it back to 3 months, at 2 months. And and there are some people that talk about even before the heartbeat. So I'm kind of worried about that, only because there are a lot of women who have been in situations such as rape and domestic abuse that really do need that service, and those are on the chopping block also. So it's not only that, but other Trump, and not because I don't like Trump's policies or some of the things that he says, but some of the things that we needed to do, just not the way that he's doing it. But with Kavanaugh, he's going to have the absolute will of the Supreme Court on his side, or the Supreme Court.
Do you think he's going to get nominated? Chosen, despite all this public controversy?
No, the Democrats are behind it, and they are doing a hell of a job of pushing him to the limit. And so far, the way it looks with this suspension, they will probably find enough information and evidence, especially if they bring the FBI in that is against Trump, and that's known to, that this week will suffice in bringing up enough evidence to disqualify him.
Yeah, another thing is he has, I want to mention two things to both Albert, Wade, and you. He didn't get married till later in life. He's 5 years younger than me, which puts him at about 53. He got married in his late 30s in 2004, and he had 2 kids with a former White House aide, Ashley Estes. Anyways, I find this interesting. Don't laugh. Kavanaugh is a Catholic and serves as a lector at the Washington, D.C. Church, the Shrine of the Most Blessed Sacrament. He helps serve meals to the homeless as part of church program and has tutored at the Washington Jesuit Academy, a Catholic private school in D.C. Well, I think that's kind of nice. But I do want to mention, the only thing that I mentioned is the Catholic Church is under scrutiny. In 2009, Kavanauh wrote an article for the Minnesota Law Review in which he argued that Congress should exempt U.S. presidents from civil lawsuits while in office because, among other things, lawsuits would be time-consuming and distracting for the president and would thus ill serve the public interest, especially in times of financial or national security crises. Kavanaugh argued that if a president does something dastardly, that president may be impeached by the House of Representatives, convicted by the Senate, and criminally prosecuted after leaving office. He asserted that the U.S. would have been better off if Clinton could have been focused on Osama bin Laden without being distracted by Paula Jones' sexual harassment and criminal investigation offshoots. By the way, like I said, he worked on the KenStarr Report. This article garnered attention in 2018 after the nomination. What do you guys think of that? Do you think one reason that, well, he wrote that article long before Trump was president in 2009. However, it would work in Donald Trump's interest to have someone with that point of view.
That's what I was talking about. That's what I was talking about in the synopsis of it, a Cliff Notes version, but the friendly amicus brief that he wrote about the fact that the president should not be impeachable.
Right. I'm sorry. Like you stated a lot of facts rapidly, and my mind was drifting a little bit.
That's fine. That's fine.
In conjunction with that, it was very well summarized, Don. You have a good handle on that. It's probably because you're out in the public every day talking about current events and other pertinent issues. Now, let's briefly go back to what Wade said. So, with this MeToo movement, a lot of heads have rolled. Al Franken chose to resign over what I consider some minor things. A lot of people have either involuntarily or voluntarily had their reputation destroyed, and even now let's discuss Brett Kavanaugh's reaction, because I thought for someone who's been to law school, he did not really have a very articulate reaction. He was almost like a little child that was very upset, and then he brought up some trivial information about his calendar in high school and college, how he never drank except for on the weekends. Did anybody follow that?
That's what entitled white boys do. White men, their inner boy comes out when they get on. Trump does it too, and a lot of them do. From whatever party. That's what they go. Their go-to is, "Oh, woe is me." And
wait a minute. Okay.
What do you think? Wait, I'm going to let you comment back. But the fact of the matter is Don's right in the sense that he did seem put off that this woman would even come along and even challenge him. Like, who gives her the right to even challenge me? Like, I felt like he did come across that way.
Okay,
go ahead.
Supposing he didn't do it, if he didn't do it, how would you expect it? I would be furious, and a black man would too, and they would be calling racism. They would be the same. It wouldn't be. It's not just entitled white boy. No, he was accused of assaulting someone.
Right, but he knows that he knows what he did. It might not have been assault in his eyes, and it might not have even been assault. I'm not saying this woman is right. I'm not, but the bottom line is that I'm not vilifying him either, because the old quote is, we've all done it. And in some way or another, not the viciousness and holding someone down and putting their hands over their mouth, now that's a little far, if true. But in some form or another, growing up and as a drunk high school boy, that subset, you can say that at one point or another, that time or another, everybody did it. Now I know, that's the subset of drunk high school boys, and every race, every male who's being drunk at that age will do something stupid like that.
Right. The sad part is there's sketchy details that happen in high school, but after Wade's done responding, I do want to read one or two sentences he wrote in his defense.
But Wade, the only thing I'm saying is that we're talking about a Republican, almost KKK trained youth leader. And that's what he was. Where he was going to Yale is that's the petri dish for festering the worst of the worst, or the meanest of the mean, or the entrenched of the most entrenched, or the most brainwashed of the most brainwashed. That's what I'm basically saying. I'm not saying if it's right or wrong, if it was true or false.
Okay, well, I don't know. All right, yeah, I don't know what happened. I don't know. I think his reaction is like how I would react, and Jane was my roommate too. She knew, she could tell if it weren't true.
If it weren't true,
I'd be like, how dare you? If I thought if I thought there was like a plot, like if I felt like, okay, these guys are trying to take me down, they're trying to manipulate things, then yeah, I would get pretty mad, and I'd react like that.
Wade, anger is good in a righteous sense, but the way that Brett Kavanaugh wrote a response, it was much better than how he, I don't want to say acted, but I'm going to try to find that quote that he said later in a few minutes, but basically I really didn't think he had an articulate defense in the sense of the whole purpose for this hearing. Like, I'm just going to read this section. Maybe it's going to bring some clarity. Since he wrote, I think he wrote this article into the New York Times, so I'm just going to read this one segment. Since my nomination in July, there's been a frenzy on the left to come up with something, anything to block my confirmation. Shortly after I was nominated, the Democratic Senate leader said he would oppose me with everything he's got. A Democratic senator on this committee publicly referred to me as evil. Evil. Think about that word. And said that those supported me were complicit and evil. Another Democratic senator on this committee said, Judge Kavanauh is your worst nightmare. A former head of the DNC said, Judge Kavanauh will threaten the lives of millions for decades to come. I understand the passions of the moment, but I would say to those senators, your words have meaning. Millions of Americans listen carefully to you. Given comments like those, it is at any surprise that people have been willing to do anything to make any physical threat against my family, to send violent email to my wife, blah, 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 blah. So the thing is that the one thing that is disturbing is that it even on my Facebook wall, as Wade observed, people automatically, in many situations, take just one side. And some of my more prudent friends were disturbed by the lack of structural evidence that Christine Blasey Ford had. John's on the line and he's at work, so I'm gonna let him jump in for a few minutes. Hi, John.
Hello, Jane. How are you?
Good. We have Albert, Wade, Don, and myself on the line, and we're talking about Kavanaugh's character and how he responded on the Senate hearings. What do you have to add?
Well, two things to consider. One would be they're trying to choose a justice that basically has a track record where we know he's dependable, he's stable, he's fair-minded, etc. So I guess one question would be, if he was, say, a stable figure with a very clean record for 10 years, like you were working somewhere and you had someone working with you for 10 years, you go, I never had a problem with this person, he was just straight arrow. Then you go, well, what about 20 years? And then you say, what about 30 years? So if you say, like, for 35 years, like the past 35, he's like a Boy Scout. I mean, like, everyone says great stuff about him. He's been on the job. He's been doing cases. So basically, you'd have to say, like, after about 20 years, it's like, you know what? It's like, what really matters in the past? Can this person do the job right now? So the question would be, is it an issue of him being trusted, or the fact that his decisions lean against one side politically as far as agenda? But the other question would be is if you took this case just as it is, the elements, and say you presented it to Judge Kavanauh as a case, would he in any state be able to hear it based on witnesses, based on evidence, based on time and place, etc., and accuracy, and no forensic report? I would think if this was such a big issue that they would have gone to seek justice in June or July. And what if they'd waited an extra week to leak out this information after the confirmation? Why did it just leak out just before? I'm just asking questions. Another question to add on to that was, why were the addresses and phone numbers of key Republicans doxed after they made the decision to FBI probe? Why weren't any Democrats leaked? And what precedent does this set? You know, there are people out there who have agendas to terrorize and to threaten people. And so it makes me very suspect of people's intentions. Why do these things always seem to leak out from Dianne Feinstein's offices or from the DNC? And we're talking about all of Hillary's information. We're talking about, the identity of Miss Blasey Ford. We're talking about the addresses of these Congress people. Why does it always leak on that end?
Well, the thing is she, this Blasey Ford person wrote into the Senate Judiciary Committee and also the White House back in June before Trump announced July 9th that he was planning to solidify his choice.
Right. And
the other thing, one thing I forgot to mention, John, Wade, and Don, and Albert, if you're listening, is when they asked him when Amy Klobuchar asked him about his drinking habits, she said, "Do you think like you were a heavy alcohol user?" And he just stared at her for about 20 seconds and said, were you a heavy alcohol? Like, I felt like his behavior was a little bit out of line.
No, that was his real behavior. That's what you don't understand, Jane. That's his real behavior. That's how he acts in private. I'm surprised his wife is so docile beside him because he probably acts like that with her. The bottom line is that what you see coming out with Brett Kavanaugh is the real Brett Kavanaugh at that hearing, at part of it. You saw Alyssa Milano behind him shaking her head when he answered the stupid question stupidly, and because the questions weren't all that great. But there was
also some controversy about blackouts, which Saturday Night Live portrayed well.
Well, here's the question. Going back to that, you're talking about high school and maybe a couple years in frat. Like, do you know the behavior of anyone? Is it really relevant 30 years later, Don? The behavior that you've had over the last 30 years as an adult?
Wade and I had a thread dialogue on Facebook with several of my friends. The things that not just my Democrat friends but other respectable people pointed out is it's one thing to go into a back alley with a woman and blank your brains out and maybe not use a condom. It's another thing to cover up a woman's mouth, have another guy in the room fondle her drunkenly, and then try to pork her, but the reason he couldn't is because a third guy jumped on the bed tipped, and she escaped.
Well,
now that's her story.
And answering
I guess
to that...
getting drunk and late is not a crime. Covering someone's mouth and hurting someone involuntarily might be.
Right, and what I'm saying, if you have that kind of accusation from 35 years ago from a kid under 18, think of all the dumb things that kids do when they're drunk. They steal cars, they rob places, they assault people. Now, he didn't rape her. Realize that he didn't kill her. Let's just pretend that he attempted. Okay, he did not succeed. One. Number two is you would have to prove it in a court of law. You would have to present evidence. When I was 13, a man tried to molest me.
You brought that up on a couple of shows. That was terrible.
I did spend the rest of my life every day reliving this thing. You have to empower yourself. Now, if you have a claim, you go and do it. But the point is, this is America. You're innocent till proven guilty. You can't bypass our system of innocence. And in this case, couldn't even be entered in a court of law. You said it's just a terrible.
John, your phone's getting fuzzy. Can you fix it?
That's right. If you allow this kind of thinking, it means every American male, no matter what you do, no matter how successful you are, someone can accuse you of something with no evidence, nothing that would even begin to enter court, and you can lose your job, your career. You could be thrown off as a CEO of a company after years and decades of hard, honest work just because someone says something that has an agenda. We have to really seriously consider that. I could say, Jane, you did this and you did that, and you'd go, prove it. Just so I
well,
say
that's
it, and
what
I start crying.
Wade and I gave this man the benefit of the doubt in the beginning of the show, that there has to be more details. There has to be at least one high school friend coming forward. That Mark Judge guy will have to be called into court to give his end of the thing, because right now he's denying it, but he also wrote a book with sketchy details about with names. He used the name O. Kavanauh, like a Irish name, to try to talk about the heavy drinking days. So somebody has to have some more corroboration. Now, just from the standpoint of that woman alone, who she wasn't intellectually composed like Anita Hill in the Clarence Thomas trial. She wasn't, she didn't have her act fully together. She did as far as the facts and cooperation, but I thought she was kind of a hot mess on the Senate Judiciary panel.
Well, you bring up a very good point, because they touted that she was this extremely highly educated person with multiple degrees who wrote multiple papers that they used in psychology and in therapy. Now, if you work in that field, you understand rape, you understand molest, you understand the rules of reporting it. You understand that you have to have witnesses, that you have to file a report, you have to get a forensic interview, which she didn't do. Think about this. This is a highly educated person. I would like to wonder what her conversations are compared to when she was on the stand, because she was talking like she was 15 years old. Little mousy voice, and kind of, I don't know if I could stand straight here, and I need some coffee just so I can be coherent. Now, I'm not saying she wasn't traumatized.
What she said is that I would like a little caffeine if it's available. She didn't say anything about not standing straight.
If I didn't see a picture of her, I would have thought this was a 15 to 19-year-old woman talking that basically came back from her first, not even the prom. She's not old enough to go to the prom. And I mean, I'm just speaking objectively. Kavanauh was very straight and direct. He was firm, and then when he started to talk about his daughters praying for Blasey Ford, he was starting to break, and he held it together. But he didn't spend 45 minutes of going, and what I'm saying is there are women who've been coming out on the internet saying, you know what, this is how women talk when we're faking it, when we want sympathy, when we want our boyfriend to pay for my car accident. This isn't an adult woman talking. Now, again, if she talks like this in the classroom when she does her presentation, then I'm thumbs up with it. But if she was doing an act just to sell a point, they never did ask her.
Well, one thing in her defense, I guess there's two ways of looking at it, Wade. I mean, Don, whatever. I'm a little tired tonight. There's two ways of looking at it, guys. The thing is A, it might have worked to her advantage that she wasn't polished, because it showed her authenticity and her emotional vulnerability and her willingness to come forward in spite of all the different holes in the story. Like, she was determined, she felt like it was her obligation to come forward even with all those problems. But as my friend, several of my friends mentioned on the Facebook thread that Wade was involved with, is that, I'll just read a few lines. I already read Renata that, like women who suppress a lot of their sexual attacks, like they push it down inside themselves for years. But let's just say, Connie Noble wrote, She looked into his eyes and face when it happened. That is the detail that a traumatized victim does not forget. This has nothing to do with Democrats or Republicans. This is a human issue. That's a party we all belong to. Now, Renata wrote, fair enough, it shouldn't be about believing men or women simply because of their gender any more than it's the right to believe them because of their age, education, or race. We need facts, and there may not be enough to back up her claim. Now, about his temperament and fit for the highest court in the land, based on what we've witnessed so far, this for me is a huge question mark. Never mind his position on critical issues, but that's for another thread. So, John, was there anything compelling about her testimony that made her believable to you, hands down?
I think that she had some trauma in her life, and I don't know if it's Kavanauh, and if it was, I don't know, I wasn't there, so I don't say he didn't, and I don't say that he did. Only they know for sure, and they were both passionate. He has everything to lose with it. Now, she was going in as to be anonymous, which means she was going to drop the bomb, the grenade, and leave town. Now, it was leaked out through Feinstein's office, so it sprung from there. They set her up, or they wanted to drop this at the last second Hail Mary. So there's a whole bunch of scheming going on in this. As far as her believability, my thought process is this. I've done stupid things in my life, and we all have, and 99% of the time I didn't get caught. And in those moments, I say, thank God I didn't get caught. And we attempt a lot of things in life that we don't succeed in. It's only the times that we get caught and get arrested that everyone goes crazy. But we all have these offenses. So I look at it this way. We have to redo our whole Constitution and our whole legal system if we're going to approach things like this where people have a serious charge and don't have anything that's credible to be allowed. And you couldn't allow this into court. You couldn't even begin to sell this. And that's what's going to happen with the FBI. They're going to give it to them. They're going to go, well, we don't have anything here. Now, and if someone says, oh, I've got some new information, they're basically a perjury because they've already been interviewed under oath saying, this is, I don't know anything. So this would be an interesting thing, who's going to, come out of the woodwork. But my point is, whether he did it or not, are we going to allow this to happen to every American male for the rest of your life? Something you did in high school? If someone's going to scream and yell or cry and you lose your job, you lose your position? I mean, this is
well, that's what Wade was kind of getting at, that, like, people automatically assume the man is guilty. Go ahead, Wade.
I was getting
yeah.
Oh, go ahead,
well,
Don
right,
or Wade.
Albert.
It doesn't matter.
I mean, Don.
No.
We'll let Don go.
That's what essentially, that's what I'm saying, too, is that what you did 30 years ago, I won't say disqualifies you, but it does push down the severity in a way a notch, only because times change, laws change, morals and mores change, and that's what is the problem. Like I said, I'm staying out of this conversation and because of several reasons. And, this is something that Brett Kavanauh now has to face. And I'm not running for office now, even though people ask me to. But part of it is because there's no reason for anyone to interject things that they don't know about. And that's what these people do. These puritanical, yes, white people are bringing all of this stuff on us, being politically correct, and 30 years later, that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Right, because I guess the thing is that she felt compelled, but she had to judge the weight of her testimony. Go ahead, Wade.
No,
go ahead, Wade.
Minorities do not make the laws. Minorities.
Isn't Booker
They don't make the laws, Wade. We don't make the rules and regulations. We don't.
Senators do. Isn't Spartacus a minority?
Who?
Booker. Booker? The guy on the Senate.
But he's not making laws. He's just floating on people's coattails. He hasn't. What fucking law has Cory Booker made? Period.
I don't know.
None.
I haven't followed.
Because he doesn't have.
But isn't that their job? Isn't he allowed to?
Yeah, but he has to have. If you know the legal process, you have to garner tremendous amounts of sponsorship, allies. You have to go into the legislative session with a full lot of ammunition. You've got to have everything going before the law is passed, because you've got to convince every single person on either side of the dais, chambers, that this law is going to benefit a majority of the people, or a segment of the people who can potentially benefit the rest of the people. So, you've got to have a lot of people come behind you in order to make a law, and you have to sustain it. It has to be a sustained effort, kind of like this Kavanauh thing, where you've got, in our case, here in Nevada, we've got 120 days from the beginning of the legislative process of a BDR bill draft request to make the case to everybody, including the governor, that this law that you're proposing is going to benefit everybody in the state. So
how do they get so many
laws? Are very difficult to create.
Seems like they get a lot of ridiculous ones passed, though.
Yeah, that's because there are a lot of ridiculous, generally white people in freaking government. If you look at Citizens United, nowhere in there, should there be the connection between corporations and individual people, human beings. And yet, the Supreme Court and everyone else underneath it has had a segment of society hoodwinked and bamboozled to go ahead and vote for something that is inhuman. Citizens United is inhuman. And yet, it's the law of the day. And there's no minorities. It is right.
What,
mind.
Don, I know this sounds ignorant, but what is the main, why are people so opposed to Citizens United? What is their main function?
More or less, I just mentioned it. In essence.
Well, I went to bathroom, so could you repeat it?
Well, just that corporations are people too, to synopsis it in its short form. That corporations have a heart, that they have a mind, that they have a brain, that they have sensors, the sensory perceptions, and everything else associated with human beings, and they are able to thus vote in individually or in blocks in certain determinations, just like a human being. So that's essentially what Citizens United.
Yeah, you see a lot of campaign ads by the Democrats against Citizens United. I just want to read two more quotes quick that is relevant to this case. Apparently, Dr. Ford did contact the Senate Judiciary Committee before all this stuff went down, but it says her attorneys, Deborah Katz and Lisa Banks, emailed staff Charles Grassley from Iowa earlier Saturday to inform them. This is a couple Saturdays ago. Ford was prepared to appear before the panel. Dr. Ford accepts the committee's request to provide her first-hand knowledge of Brett Kavanaugh's sexual misconduct. They said stopping short of accepting Grassley's initial offer. Now, there was some discussion that she was going to maybe tell somebody in private what happened, but she decided to go public. Does anyone have a comment on that, like how this whole thing came about?
As you mentioned before, this is, and I kind of concurred, This is a Democratic whitewash. The thing is that...
So you think the Democrats are really behind it?
Absolutely. And you've got the best one. You've got the best one at the lead, who's not Nancy Pelosi. You've got Dianne Feinstein. She has walked the fine line Feinstein. I like that. She's kind of been lately in her old age dino, Democrat in name only. So she has been kind of getting soft on liberal, progressive, however you want to call it, the Democratic Socialist agenda.
I think her opening statements were fucking brilliant. She had brilliant opening statements. She summarized things completely and rationally and forthright, and you can tell she's been in the Senate a long time by just the nature of and professionality of her speech.
And then she got to a point where she started questioning the veracity, if you will, of what's her name? The lady said was saying. She challenged the lady. Dang it, what's her name?
Christine Blasey Ford.
Blasey Ford. Yes,
I do agree with John that for someone who's Blasey Ford has 2 masters, a PhD, and a bachelor's, and she got her second master's after she got her PhD. Like, how many damn degrees does a person need? She didn't seem very polished.
Why are you laughing? You got 2 masters and a BA. What are you talking about?
No, I have a bachelor's, a master's, and a teaching license.
That's still enough. So there, we should laugh at you.
All I'm saying is that if I was up there, I'm going to give some intimate testimony, which I don't really want to give, but it's just an outline. I used to date a Ukrainian guy who was a little crazy from the get-go. Lauren was about 5 when I started dating him, but it was kind of like an on-again, off-again relationship. But one time when I was living in the Valley, it was around 11 o'clock at night. I used to work at Six Flags. And Mrs. Christmas used to watch Lauren here and there. That was actually my roommate's name, Mrs. Christmas. So I went out with the Ukrainian guy late at night. And all I had, we were just going to drive around the neighborhood, and all I had on was a slinky. I think I had my nightgown on, and I had my nightgown on. I'm not trying to give myself away, but I wasn't fully dressed. I might have had a T-shirt over me. Well, then I got in his car, and he told me, we have to go somewhere. I have to go pick something up. And it was about 3 miles across town, like in Van Nuys, and I was living in Reseda. And we got to this guy's house who I had met before, who was kind of like a masculine blue-collar type friend of his. And when I got to that person's house after dating the Ukrainian for 3 months, he said, could you warm this guy up sexually for me? Just do it as a favor for me. And I was fucking shocked. And I couldn't leave this guy's house because I wasn't fully dressed. Like, I wasn't going to walk the streets of L.A. in half clothing. So I had a panic attack, and I didn't even have my phone with me, and I asked the man's house that we were at, because the Ukrainian guy left for a while. I asked him if I could use the phone to call the police. And he basically said that nothing was going to happen, it's going to be okay, and that he'll ask Roman Feryulov, the Ukrainian, to give me a ride home, and that's what happened. But I think he ended up giving me a ride home, but it was terrifying. Like, people don't realize how really bad things can get. Like, I completely trusted this person. I knew him for 2 months, and he had never behaved like that. And just think about all the women who are killed at knife point by strangers just when they're walking their dogs in the park. Like, I got off lucky, but I was still terrified. I was in a completely helpless position. I didn't have my phone. my son was at home with Mrs. Christmas, and after that, you have to realize that women have to be a lot smarter with men. They can get themselves in really bad situations without even knowing that they're in that situation.
Ding, ding,
So
ding,
I'm
ding,
sharing
ding,
my
ding,
story,
You're a
my
big
MeToo
winner.
story. What, Don?
Ding, 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 ding. You're a big winner. You're a big wiener.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not Anthony Weiner.
That's who you're supposed to stay away from.
Well,
So can I ask you guys an honest question? Based on the story I just told you, was I stupid in that situation to trust the Ukrainian guy?
You were normal. I mean, a lot of people don't go out and hang out.
Yeah, you were stupid.
Okay, let Albert answer. He hasn't answered the whole show.
Yeah, I think it's
Go
just
ahead,
normal.
Albert.
I mean, I hang out with people I just barely met a month or 2 months, you know. And just because I'm a guy doesn't mean anything else, you know. Well, I mean, women are more likely not to hang out or insecure. I mean, and on average, you know, women. Like, I mean, I'd be hanging out with a couple, you know, a group, and there'd be this girl, and it'd be like, I was like, damn, your ride hasn't come. You need a ride? And I was like, no. She'd rather wait like 2 or 3 hours to wait for her ride because she didn't trust anybody else. Was
she at your house, or were you guys at someone else's house?
It was at a party. It was at somebody else's house. It was at a party. Anyways, but, you know, with the guys, it's a different story. Like, I talked to this guy like a month ago, and I was like, yeah, man, you know, like, I'm going to this party. You want to come or whatever? So, yeah, sure. And I go over there, and, you know, and as long as it's in a group place, I mean, I'm not gonna be like, he's not gonna tell me, oh, you want to come in this dark alley and dark corner behind the dumpster? Like, let's meet over here. Like, no, like, that doesn't make any sense. But if he invites me into a public scene, then I'll come. You know, even if I met the guy just a month ago, it's just, you know, it's not a big deal. You know, I mean, I think a lot of people just kind of just try stuff like that and hang out with other people like that. Anyways.
Go ahead, Don.
No, I'm asking the question: who wanted to heat who up sexually? I don't even get what the hell happened.
With me? Okay, I met Roman in the summer, like, of 2004 or 2005, right? We dated for like 2 months, on and off, because we both had pretty crazy schedules. And then I was living at Mrs. Christmas's that summer, and then I moved back.
No.
I ended up moving back. What happened was he tried to get me to do something sexually with his friend. Like, he pawned me off like I was a hooker.
Oh, okay.
He brought me to his friend's house, and he didn't respect me, apparently, and he told me that I should warm up his friend, like, get him hot.
Right.
And
I thought maybe he wanted his friend for himself, and he wanted you to, like, dance and warm him up so that they can get it on.
No! He wasn't gay. If I was dressed properly, if I had shorts and tennis shoes on and, like, a jacket, I would have kicked one of them in the balls and fucking ran down the street and taken a cab home. But I was in a completely vulnerable position. Like, I felt like I was a victim, but I wasn't going to go before a Senate panel about it.
Just staying in line.
You got in the car voluntarily and went with him.
Yeah, but he was kind of like my boyfriend. Years later, John will laugh at this one. About 2 or 3 years later, after that whole thing, I called him up one night, and I had just gone to Barack Obama's birthday party in Hollywood. It was like a celebration, his first term in office. I think it was in 2010. I called him up. I had a Chrysler Sebring convertible at that time. It must have been in 2011 because I got my inheritance. Anyways, to make a long story short, I met him over by Burbank. I remember we were sitting in the car, and I had this dress on that I bought that was way too small for me. Like I couldn't even peel it off. It was too tight. And he was actually nice to me that night. But see, that's how women are who's been abused, that we go back to men who treat us bad.
Well, to add something onto the point, women in general at that young age are, like between 15 and 20, 22 or so, they're usually innocent or naive about a lot of things until they go to college and maybe hang out with, other gals that school them. But basically, guys are hunters. And if they're players, the rule is you don't just go out and connect on the first attempt, because women will turn you down. So you have to go on the hunt. That's because if Kavanauh really was a predator, a gang rapist, he would have a long, long history over the years, because sexual desire returns. You could go out and screw someone, and 2 days later you still got the same problem, a week later. So once a person has a certain approach that's successful, they will keep using it over and over.
Well, like I said, in his defense, he was 17. He didn't even know how to take the girl's clothes off, and she had a one-piece bathing suit under her clothes. He sounded inexperienced. But to approach...
Going to that point, see, if basically if he really was that kind of guy, he would keep trying it over and over, more parties, and you would have a 20-year history, or it'd be like the Kennedys or whoever, of sexually using women or going after them, and whatever approach works.
Well, he's got three. He's got three. He doesn't have 16 like the president.
Alleged.
Screw that.
John, he has three formidable accusers, including one of his Yale classmates.
Yeah, but the third one, they're throwing her out because of her accusations are so far-fetched and they're unreliable. But
well, good.
President Trump there are not.
One of them is named Julie Swetnick.
Yeah, she's getting thrown out. But Trump has 16, and they know alleged bullshit. They have 16 verified charges against him.
Verified? You mean, what do you mean, but what does verified mean?
Verified means these girls have actually filed claims on him. So there is no allegation on any of this. And these were girls. These weren't women. Some of these girls were part of the Miss America and Miss Universe pageant that he owned, and he thought that he had a license to go in any time he wanted and talk to them any way that he wanted. And this is, I used to be a pro caddy who caddied a lot of pro tournaments, and I know that the viciousness of rape and racism that the entitled white man has had, especially the richer white men. I turned down a full scholarship to college, Evans Scholar, because my grades were good enough and I was a good enough caddy. And I turned it down because I didn't want to go to school with a bunch of little dick white boys that thought they were kings. That's the worst thing in the world. And
why is the color? If these are dicks, the important thing is they're dicks and entitled rich people. Why is the color? If I said these brown terrorists, wouldn't you think, why are you pointing out that they're brown? The important thing is terrorists. I don't understand the significance of the color.
Because you've got to look at culture. There was no black man who was in the SS or the Nazis. There was no Jew.
Okay, well, Muslim terrorism is part of a culture too.
Muslims are not black. Muslims are.
Well, they're brown. Can I talk about usually?
Well, the thing is that this whole I've got white babies, and so I have no problem dealing with white people. I do it all. I've done it all my life. The thing is, and I tried to help, and I help as many of them as I can. I was brought up that way. Brought up in Wisconsin, you try to help everyone. So I have no problem with it until they become overly obnoxious about it, which they have the last 20 years, ever since, or 30 years, ever since really Nixon started with a lot of the racism talk. And then you go to this idiot Ronald Reagan, who was only a half-wit, and everything that he was saying was written down, especially in the second half of his second presidency. He was a vegetable. He had Alzheimer's. It was the Nancy Reagan show. And then you got this goofball Clinton. The only thing who were obvious and overt racists, and the Bushes. Oh my God! I think they still own slaves. And then you're talking about another white boy, half white boy in Obama. He sold his soul to
and half black.
He's half black, but he learned all this stuff with white people because he.
I don't know.
He said, "Yeah, I know you don't," but he had to sell his soul to Goldman Sachs.
If I can complain about the brown Muslim terrorists, we're all good.
Yes, because there are white Muslim terrorists who make up a majority of ISIS, or of the friends of ISIS, if you will. Those are all white Muslim terrorists. And the people who are running from America, there's probably about half and half who join up.
Well, it's part of the
ISIS.
world too. I mean, most troublemakers are going to be white here because most people are white. Go to Africa, most troublemakers are black because most people are black. In China, most troublemakers are Asian because most people are Asian.
Oh my God, no. Most of the trouble that happened in Africa happened because of apartheid. That's white people.
That's one part. That's one country. They were killing each other long before. And what about Central and America? There was the Aztecs sacrificing people, killing people. Were they white, or does it not matter that they were killing people because it's their brown people religion or something?
Right. Well, that's just their culture and at that time. But
so it's okay?
It happened. Of course it's okay. That's what God meant it
Why
to be.
is it? Okay, well then if white people are doing bad things, maybe that's their culture. But I don't understand. Okay, so then can't I
White people
and
have
isn't
been
it
forever. White people don't know anything.
And isn't it can't I think it's a bad thing that the Aztecs were like killing huge amounts of people?
Yeah, the Aztecs were killing huge amounts of people, and they were doing that for millennials, for quite a long time, until the Spaniards came, the Spanish Catholics came in, and then they were killing everybody. It wasn't huge amounts of people. Fuck huge amounts of people. They were killing everybody. The only people that survived, that lived, were those who could bring the gold down from the mountains down to the foothills. Those are the only people who lived for a long, long time.
Okay, well, they were all bad. I mean, it doesn't make it okay that the people in the Aztecs were killing people. Is that okay?
But I'd rather have 18 people. I'd rather have 18,000 people dying than 180,000 people dying per week or per day.
Well, they're both bad, right? I mean,
they're both bad,
the more people is worse, and the more powerful the government, the more people they kill, right?
Correct. And the government, when the government gets a ally or a boost or propaganda from an outside source, which is Caucasus, the people from the Caucasus regions, Teuton regions, Anglo regions, luckily or unluckily, whatever the case may be, they left the Scandinavian regions out. But those people are killers. They've been in war. I just came from Italy. You are over there all the time. There is nothing but memorabilia about war. Art and war.
Ask Asians how peaceful it is over there. Look at how many people Mao killed. Is it because is he white, or is it because of white people that Mao killed all those people?
Mao was Mao. Back then, the Chinese invented gunpowder, and then the white man perfected it. So the Chinese were out there that, they were doing it largely for fun until it was harnessed. But, killing people was not the major reason for gunpowder, and not originally. So, it's hard to say about that, but in most cases, United States guns are distributed, or military, or whatever, distributed worldwide now, and it's been going on since the United States was able to develop, to get guns and ammunition and cannons and everything like that. They're just taking it the next step, where they're mass exporting it all over the world, and we're getting killed every single war that we're fighting in right now. Our kids are getting killed by our own guns. That's how pervasive they are.
I don't deny that. My issue is you're trying to blame one race for what happens all over the world.
It's distributed by the white man. I'm saying
oh my gosh! And it's used by people of all races.
Because they've been taught, they've been brainwashed, and they also see the efficiency of weaponry. I mean, if in many instances,
brainwashed by white people.
Correct.
You need to justify your argument. You are accusing one race of what the whole world does, and that is racist.
Correct.
Sorry,
Correct.
That's racist.
That's very racist.
You admit you're racist. All right.
No. I'm not saying I'm racist. I'm saying the concept is racist.
You are. You will blame one race for what happens for what the whole world does. Violence has been going around in every country. Sure.
Well, the thing is, I'm saying the concept is racist. I'm not saying that I'm racist. I just said I'm the most, just like our president. I'll go up there and say in a heartbeat and look at a camera with a polygraph test around me and say I'm the least racist you will ever meet.
I am not convinced. You can say it.
But yet you're supporting the president?
No, I'm not convinced of you saying that.
That's fine. I don't care what you think of me. I'm not just.
Okay.
Man, I think what I think, and I know what I know, and I know that because of the pervasiveness.
This is a voice for everyone.
The pervasiveness of the culture of the Caucasian, who has been at war since officially broke off from the African nation. They've been in war constantly ever since. You go to Europe all the time. You know that they worship that. You know that France is virtually has a connection to the war. In Italy, every person is a member of the military. You know this. And it's just like that in many other countries around Europe. Everybody else knows laughter and love and how to make babies.
Okay, well, you hate white people. We get it. All right.
I didn't say
I don't. There's no reason for me to.
I don't hate white people. I don't hate anybody. I am trying to.
You hear yourself?
Understand. I'm trying to help people understand what they're like. White people.
Well, if you tell people, how are you helping people by saying you're bad because of your skin color and there's nothing you can do? Can people change their skin color? If being white, I'm already bad, that means I can't do anything about it.
No, that means you can change. You have free will.
But you said every single white person in the world is bad. So if nobody
No, I'm not talking about.
Okay, you guys, let's not get too far into this racial debate.
No.
Don comes from that position often, but Don, you do have to clarify it because I'm bringing the Singapore guy in 1 minute.
All right, when you
go ahead, Don. Clarify your position.
Anybody who does not have pineal gland or melanin has a different feeling of life than people who don't, and that is where a lot of these, richer white people They go out, and when I say white people, in essence, I'm trying to keep it to white men. But they're, you know, I'm fighting. I've been fighting all my life for white women, for women in general, with the ERA. I've got. I helped. I was one of the main forces in getting the ERA passed here in Nevada, and that's for white women. And black women, they know that they'll never be equal. They know that they don't have a chance in life.
So Don, if I can interject. So what you're saying is that basically African black tribes over the years didn't have violence or murder, neither did Native Americans.
I never said that.
And that in the hood, in black communities over the last 200 years, or last 100 or 50, that there's no violence there. There's no excessive violence compared to white communities because it's peaceful and you celebrate life and you're very, very nice about all these things. Is that what you're saying? Based on your hypothesis?
In a way, except for the fact that it would be like that to a larger degree, that except that there are minorities who are made to or are forced into inner cities or ghettos or wherever you want to call them, which brings about that crampedness, claustrophobia, where people become psychotic and develop psychosis, and so they're fighting for their life every day. But,
absolutely.
The guy from Singapore is on the line now.
Yes.
Mike's on the line.
Yes. Thank you so much for bringing me on. Hello, Don. Hello, Jane. Hello, Ben. If you're there, Albert and John.
It's Jane, Don, Wade, Albert, and John.
Oh, okay.
Tonight.
Hey, Mike.
Okay. Hello, dear. You know, a situation, you know, is very tense in United States, as we hear it in Singapore and from all Asians. I mean, you know, it's for one time, for the sake of the history of United States, everybody must come to an agreement. Okay, whatever. Agreement to whatever.
Start all over, Mike. Start all over, Mike.
Yeah.
Hello there.
Okay.
How are you? How many people died in the damn Indonesian earthquake?
400 people.
823.
Okay.
Yeah, and rising up. Yes, indeed.
Okay.
But the question is, but no. Let me talk my friend down. You know, we need in the United States to forgive each other for whatever it happened.
I'm going to kick your ass.
200 years ago, and we must come together
400.
and, you know, to an agreement, to kind of, you know, okay, this thing happened, racism or slavery and etc.
Well,
I understand.
Right. The white European men have organized the world in a fashion where the white European men have organized the world in a fashion where it's all about profit, economic money making, and the main focus of man is to make money. People are separated because of money. I just saw a documentary about Filipinos where Filipino women have to go all over the world, including Saudi Arabia, the United States, and Hong Kong, to make money for their family. They have to leave their kids behind just so they can make money to survive.
Yes.
I haven't done that.
Understand. Yes, I understand the situation, but, you know, if we keep coming, and I understand white European and they are aristocrats in the United States, there is no democracy in the United States, and everything is a sham election in the United States. We all know that. Means right now, government of cooperation, for the cooperation, by the cooperation exists in the United States. I mean, Kavanauh, if it's supposed to be elected, it will be elected. If Kavanauh, for some reason, they, the aristocracy or those people behind the scene, they are going to say, no, Kavanauh, you need to resign. We don't want you. There are too much problems. he is going to resign within the next 48 hours, or he is going to be elected. Simple as that. People has no rule in the United States, never, from the birth of this beloved country, that we are all part of it. If I'm wrong, correct me, please. Anybody? I'll agree
Someone
with you,
answer.
right? Please.
Yeah, well, our ancestors did what they did. Let's judge people by individually who they are, and let's work with the people that are willing to work with us and team up. And we all agreed last week, like, we want to get regular people together to make a difference and make the world not rely on the government and make the world a better place. I'm for that.
Right. And so racism is everywhere. Here in Singapore, they call us foreign workers, but that's fine. Still, we don't mind it. Say I'm foreign worker, I don't give a damn. Still, I'm going to work. Still, they need me here, you know? They cannot, all of these Chinese we have here, we have Japan, and a lot of people from America, Canada, Australia here works in Singapore. So, we just let it, we don't even let it bother us anymore. Because if it let it bother us, then once we work, then we are not going to be productive, we are not going to be, happy. We want to be happy. Whatever you're working, you need to be happy. Oh, yes, your boss maybe is white. Maybe your boss is... I don't want to keep bringing white, yellow, black, etc. in my conversation. Because all of us come DNA to the same DNA that we are one people. There is no difference between us. We are one human race, and we must get along with each other as much as possible, and that's what I'm asking for. Yes, it's hard.
But, Mike, what does this have to do with partisanship in the Senate? Because the topic of discussion is Brett Kavanaugh and his reaction to Christine Blasey Ford testifying, and how this is going to move forward after 1 week of an FBI investigation.
Right. Exactly. That's what, again, as I said, we don't have to say anything. I mean, the FBI may investigate the lady, and there are 3 ladies, I believe, right now, or 4 at least, minimum. And then, yes, you said maybe 1 week delay, and then they're going to go to different process. As I said in the beginning, not me, not you, not Don, nobody is really is matter. I mean, yes, people go inside the committee and they shout and they take them out, etc. But it's just a show. It's a sham. It's just show to distract us from the main reality. Main reality is.
Do you think the women's testimony is a distraction, or that they were
It's everything. They brought the Kavanauh from the day one, because you see, Donald Trump has a lot of problems right now, my dear friends. And in order to, they say, oh, Kavanauh is good, Kavanauh this, Kavanauh blah, blah. They want to sidetrack. He is in a deep shit, Donald Trump, right now. From every angle you look, he's in deep shit.
I thought Donald Trump was actually pretty level-headed throughout all this. Like, when it all came to fruition, he was kind of defensive, but lately he's been pretty tame. He said, sure, I'll cooperate with the FBI. The woman's testimony was believable. She was a compelling witness. Like, he didn't really act as defiant as he does in a lot of other situations.
Yeah, because he changes every day. You see, the 2 days before he said, no, Kavanauh is a nice guy. Yeah, no, we have to wait for her, blah, 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 and something, he's not in charge of the country. You know that. They tell him what he says. He is a puppet.
No, I think he does exactly as he behaves, but then when he gets too far off the grid, the White House consultants tell him, listen, dude, you have to tone it down a bit. But I think for the most part, he behaves exactly as he wants.
Yeah, he's
not strategic by any measure. he wouldn't know what the word diplomacy was if you put it as a flashcard right in front of him. He says and does exactly as he pleases.
Yeah, he's a big mouser. Let's put it that way. Well, a big mouser. That's what he is. I mean, he doesn't give a damn for respect
to In America, we just call it a big mouth.
Yeah, he doesn't even let anybody ask him a question, my dear friends. He says to the journalists in front of millions, billions of people around the globe that watching, CNN, Fox, and all other, and Singapore National News, etc. Live. I mean, he says, you ask too much questions, you sit down, let them, I go down. I said, he just, cut the people's throat, any journalist, as Hitler did. Hitler of Germany. He's exactly act like a Hitler. He put the wall between the United States and Mexico. I mean, the walls of Germany came down. Walls of China is going to come. Here's the deal,
Mike. In a pluralistic country like America, where we have all these bipolar belief systems and all the extremists the moderates are practically voiceless nowadays. This is my firm belief. I don't think it would take it would take a Tony Blair charisma with major promises like Bernie Sanders to really turn America into something other than itself. I really don't think Trump has the capability to turn America into a George Orwellian novel. It's never going to happen. He has too many enemies.
It's too divided. Yeah.
I mean,
he can spout off all he wants, but he's still only going to have a 25% core set of believers who really believe everything he says, hook, line, and sinker. And since Ben didn't call the show tonight, I'm going to criticize him because Ben says for as intelligent as Ben is, he says some really off-the-wall stuff about how wonderful Trump is, and he completely overlooked all his negative qualities. Like, yes, he pardoned he pardoned 2 people in Nevada who were having land issues. Yes, Trump's done some good things, but to worship him as a hero, it's so far off the grid that anyone in their sane mind could never worship Trump.
It's like Ayatollah Khomeini in Iran. When he came, he said, I'm bringing you democracy. I'm making Iran great again. I give you everything that Shah of Iran took from you. No, Shah give freedom to everybody.
In some ways, Khomeini was justified because the United States and the Shah of Iran took advantage of Iran for 25 years, and Iran was only becoming true to their divine self by becoming a religious-based government. The only problem is it didn't work in the long run because anytime that you have a religious theocracy running the government, they're too top-down on expecting their citizens to conform exactly to how they want them to be.
Right now, everybody in Iran wants freedom. But the question is, who brought Khomeini? MI6 and CIA. I mean, they brought him because they want to destroy, because Iran was going to be self-sufficient under the Shah. Everybody happy, everybody has house, everybody has BMWs. I mean, everybody coming empty luggage to America and Europe, and then
America was in bed with the Shah, and we were giving Iran what they wanted. A very wealthy Iranian became my college roommate in 1979, and she left the country when Khomeini got elected.
Right. They couldn't see that, and then they changed the formula. They say we are bringing a religious theocracy, a religious man. Khomeini was from India, by the way. He born in India. He wasn't even Iranian born.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, Khomeini was brought from born in Iran, exiled during the Shah in Iraq, and then when he came into power, then Iran and Iraq went to war, and 4 million people died, and 3 million people disabled, etc., from both countries. And while America and Israel selling weapons to both countries, so go ahead, kill each other. You see?
Yeah,
Because,
the thing was that we gave money to Iraq and we helped kill the Iranians. Go ahead,
and also
Wade.
Iran too.
Don's call dropped. Don is no longer on the line.
Yes. So anyway, the bottom line is Donald Trump wants to make America great again. I don't think so, because
good for him.
Really, right? Yeah, for him, yes, good for him. He's still hiring on illegal aliens to do his Trump towers in other cities and etc. right now. And then he said, "Oh, I don't want to bring illegal aliens to America," but he's bringing them and give them less than $4 or $5 or even $3 an hour. Yes. If you don't believe it,
first of all, as a Democrat, we have an advantage. Donald Trump is old. Second of all, even though the economy is really good now, the partisanship of this country is going to take Donald Trump down, whether he wants to be or not. I'd be really surprised to see him winning in November of 2020.
Yeah, I don't think so. And remember, every 20 years, and the president of that time is going to be assassinated, because from the day one, 1960, 1980, 2000.
No one's been killed since 1960 and 63, and Reagan had an assassin attempt on his life, but he didn't die.
Right, but I mean,
sure
it's something like
even
that.
when Obama was in
years.
office, some Latino guy from Southern California or Mexico tried to jump the wall and kill him, but really we've been pretty lucky as far as presidential assassinations go. Like Nigeria lost 4 presidents in a 15-year span from assassinations.
Please go to globalincidentmap.com, okay? And then put it on the presidential thread. And then here is, let me see, hazmat, gang activities, border security, presidential threat map. Oh my gosh, look at all the United States is red. Look at it right now. Go to globalincidentmap.com.
Oh, yeah.
And then push presidential
I want to ask
threat.
you one more question, Mike, and then I'm going to have Wade do his conclusion.
Sure,
with
please.
Donald Trump's stature in the world, recently he attacked the Canadians with trade barriers that are not beneficial to either country. His standing in Europe isn't all that. What kind of international permanent influence does Donald Trump really have?
Really, nobody has respect for him, really. Even in Singapore, it's better we say we are from India or we are from a different country or UK or from European Union. They respect us more. I mean, you say U.S.
The only country that likes them is France. I guess their prime minister likes Trump, and Poland. Those are really the only 2 countries who like Trump.
Right. Exactly.
That have any kind of significance.
Yeah.
But he pissed off Latin America the second week of his presidential campaign, so I don't think anyone in Central or South America really like him. Right.
Exactly. And please go to Global, and then they have other Amber Alert, Hazmat Solution, disease outbreaks map, and etc. Just push on each one of them and discover something new, and you may use it for the next time, or Monday or Tuesday, or whenever you have the program again, and you might use this information.
Yeah, we're not going to have it for a week. We had one on Tuesday night. We had one tonight, and we're not having another we only have it once a week on the average.
Oh, okay. But I hope you do it more, my dear Jane, because your show
Well,
is
I
number
don't
one.
have time. I work 90 hours
I
a
know.
week. And
Yes, I
Wade
understand.
flies all
See.
over the country. Don goes door to door canvassing in his early 60s. John busts his balls at the 99-cent store breaking down pallets every day. All of us are and Albert works on cars.
Yeah.
A lot of us are super busy.
I mean, yes, I am with you. I mean, it's a shame that an American has to work 90 hours a week. I mean, you should
I
work,
do it because I want to, and I like money. Even though I'm not a slave to capitalism, I guess I am nowadays.
but
Wade, why don't you do your conclusion now?
Sure. Well, you brought up the capitalism. I think it's a lot of the government regulations that drive up prices. So that's a point I'd make, that you find the freer the economies, the more abundant and available and better the lifestyle. And you can look and see, like, a company that did rankings of countries. At the top of the list are like Singapore, Switzerland, New Zealand. People live well in those countries. At the bottom of the list.
Let's not do our conclusion based on what I said the last 5 minutes. I'm in a position now. I work for a company with unlimited overtime, and I'm in a position now to make money. Now, that might not be the same situation for a lot of people. Like, there's people with advanced degrees that can't find work. So,
because unemployment is 30%. Unemployment really is 30%.
Why don't you do your conclusion, Wade, based on what we talked about the first 60 minutes of the show?
Okay.
Because you're good at that
so,
summary stuff.
Oh, thank you. I Kavanaugh. People should be talking about where he's going to stand, because how he's going to vote on things is what's going to matter. I don't think there's much evidence that he did these attacks. Definitely, if somebody complains about an assault, we should listen. But there has to be some kind of evidence. I've never heard what the evidence is against him.
Like corroboration, like at least one friend, right?
And it's suspicious how Feinstein, I was going to say, like, it was almost like a card game. Like, she threw this down right before they were going to, which is like, strategically, I'd give her a lot of admiration. Morality-wise, not so much. But boy, I mean, that was like a game move. Like,
what did she do? She threw the gavel down?
Well, she threw in that letter at the last minute. She's like, oh, okay, we're ready to vote. And, oh, by the way, I got this letter that he assaulted someone. So it was like, throwing in this surprise wild card. So it was a very strategic move. So if she was guided by conscience, she would have brought that up 3 months ago. And from what I heard, the Republicans were trying to get a hearing, trying to get the information, let's talk to Ford. It was very suspicious that they were told she's afraid to fly, and then in the hearings it came out that she flies a lot for pleasure, for her hobbies. And another thing was, they said, she doesn't want us to go over there and meet her. Well, in the trials it turned out like
I heard some controversy
that's not
about that.
So maybe she has a sugar daddy. Just kidding.
Yeah. So she doesn't impress me as a sneaky person, but the people that were surrounding her, like, I really got the impression there were some people behind the scenes, some sneaky people working with her, like, especially that lawyer. I'm like, wow, that guy is like a James Bond villain right there.
I think one of the lawyers, I don't know if it was for Christine Ford or the other lady from Yale, but he represented Stormy Daniels.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And
I don't know if it was for her or that lady from Yale that he went to college with. His name was like Avenatti, but I think it was Christine Ford, because he's the one who wrote the tweet that I have a client that would like to speak before the Senate. So technically, I think it was Avenatti, the lawyer involved, who was Stormy Daniels' person.
These accusations get so strange. Well, it came out that people were paid to speak out against Trump, and it gets really suspicious. It totally makes sense that people don't want to. Someone's getting too much power. Okay, let's find somebody to claim they did something. I'm not saying we should assume it's always the case.
That's kind of like the dark side of our government, that people have ulterior motives and they'll do anything to take down a political opponent.
Oh yeah. And as far as Trump, no, I'm not a Trump worshiper. I'll happily criticize him on things. The thing is, I am much more afraid of what the Democrats will do, because I know you're level-headed, Jane, and I know a lot of people are, but a lot of them have this everything bad in the world is because of white people point of view that Don has, and a lot of them also have this point of view of women never lie. And I don't think women particularly lie. I think they, just like men lie and women lie, I don't think there's anything uniquely honest or dishonest about women. I think they're people.
I think from
my
Don's
observation.
perspective, he didn't start out that way. He grew up in a privileged neighborhood in Milwaukee because his mom was the first female cop. But I think he's become cynical, not really bitter, because he still has a pretty good lifestyle and they have a nice house and his wife has good retirement. But I think he started organizing in his mind how the world got screwed up. And a lot of decisions, even when Bush was in office, you saw a lot of people take advantage of their position in American government, like how him and Cheney used Halliburton as a vehicle to make money in the Mideast when they're supposed to be trying to overthrow a government and resurrect a new democratic one. But then they were making a lot of money off of contracts. So there's a lot of speculation about integrity in government, and even people like Ben criticize Obama, saying that Obama was a come-from-nowhere person. And then they say now that he's part of the establishment, he's no better than anybody else. He's in it for the money and all this bullshit. It gets pretty sickening, the level of people's cynicism. And that's why I kind of put a stop to I wouldn't let people talk on the air for 2 weeks about the Q movement, because there's so much terrible things they say about people that I can't deal with it.
Well, I think there's a lot of we used to have an expression, power corrupts, and ultimate power corrupts ultimate, something to that effect.
That's one of them.
And it wasn't about race. We knew that people in power got corrupt. A lot of the more powerful people in the world are white and they're corrupt. But it's anybody who gets into power. And I don't, what's the point of talking about the race of bad people? The issue is they're bad people. They're not, who cares? I don't care if a gangster is killing people. I don't care that they're black. I don't care. It's that they're killing people. Sorry, Mike, once you.
Well, I agree with you, Wade, because people during the slave trade, a lot of the blacks sold their own people. So, but I think what I was just trying to explain to you Don's perspective. He's seen too much in America, especially with the prison system, and so has Albert. God. Albert's commented on that. Go ahead, Mike.
Sure.
I'm going to let whoever wants to talk.
Sure.
Go ahead.
dailymail.com or dailymail.co.uk. It says Brett Kavanagh was a frequent and heavy drinker at Yale who was belligerent and aggressive when drunk. Say troubled former classmate who is now demanding to speak to FBI investigator. Charles Chad Ludington said he was Brett Kavanaugh's friends at Yale and sometimes drank with him. Ludington said on Sunday that he is
who is he friends with
Kavanagh at the Yale University.
Who was friends with Kavanagh? I didn't hear.
Charles Chad Ludington said that he was Brett Kavanaugh's friend at Yale and sometimes drank with him. Ludington said on Sunday that he's deeply troubled by what he claimed is blatant mischaracterization by Kavanauh of his drinking at Yale. But he described Kavanauh as frequent drinker and heavily drinker. Ludington said Kavanauh was often that's one I read. And Kavanauh chief
Well, drinking's a serious problem. And you can tell by his defensiveness in the Senate that he wasn't really able to come to terms with his own personal shortcomings. Whether I'm not talking about sexual assault. I'm just saying his own sassy attitude on questions about drinking were pretty rotten.
Yeah.
So
absolutely. Yeah, you can go to dailymail.co.uk or just put dailymail UK
well,
or
on our
dailymail.com.
show, it's better just to state your opinion because people can go all over the internet looking for information, but we're on this show to give the public our point of view.
Yeah,
so,
Daily Mail is pretty good.
You
but
guys,
it's up to you to understand.
I have to tell you something. I got to take a 3-minute break. Can you guys wrap the show up for me? I'll come back on the air in 3 minutes.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Well,
thank you so much.
Sure.
Go ahead.
I mean,
you got your own point of view. That's very important to hear.
Yeah. Brett was so upset because he was being accused of assaulting someone, and he felt like he was being like they were plotting against him. So I don't see his attitude as a concern. And if he had a drinking problem in the past and he took care of it, like, they've done 6 FBI checks on him, and you look at his record. Now, I've heard more compelling arguments against some of the positions he's taken. So I would be much more convinced to not want to see him over some positions. But I understand him being upset, and he should yell at the senators. Senators should be yelled at.
Well, certainly it's against the law to drink and drive drunk. It's against the law to gang rape women. It's against the law to rape women. It's not against the law to drink, and it's also not against the law to drink and then 30 years later have a job and try to move up within your job, and if someone accuses you without any substantiation that would stand up in a court, that would even begin to stand up in a court from anyone at any of the accusations. No one has given any evidence. No one has given any viable witness. Doesn't contradict itself. No one's taken forensic interviews. No, there's nothing. So again, this is America, and these are Second Amendment rights. These are the rights we have. Innocence until proven guilty. We have a right to face our accusers. We have the right to not to incriminate ourselves. These are basic premises of our society. And if we abandon those, then we might as well restart what we are as a country. If Donald Trump was Hitler and fascist, he wouldn't deregulate. He wouldn't encourage freedom of speech like on Twitter.
Amen.
He wouldn't shut people down like CNN or Yahoo or MSN. And I watch the news every day. In fact, if you Yahoo right now or Google or AOL and you look up every article, Donald Trump is at the end. Donald Trump is failing. Donald Trump is the devil. I mean, there is not one good story about him. It's a very one-sided model, and this is not objective journalism. They're selectively choosing the narrative. And so I see some bias from your viewpoint. Donald Trump has done nothing that is like Adolf Hitler at all. He's actually promoting our freedom, our independence. So now that will remain to be seen in the year to come. But I don't see the valid point to what you were saying.
All these laws that you're talking about, I mean, you put all these laws into place, but they're all just for the average Joe. If you're rich and powerful, many of those laws don't apply to you. Like it's prostitution, right? It's against the law for the average Joe, but of course, there's loopholes. If you have a lot of money, loopholes that you're not essentially paying for somebody for sex, but you could be paying somebody just to hang out with you, quote unquote.
Mm-hmm.
You can have sex with you if they want you. So if you give them like $100,000 just to hang out with you, and then they decide to have sex just because they like you, that's how it goes.
Which is why
yes.
Or porno video, right? You make a video and you paid her to make a porn video. That's a loophole. There's loopholes for the rich, wealthy, and powerful. But the average Joe, like prostitution's against the law, and that can go on for many. Like let's just say murder, right? I mean, you're wealthy. You don't murder people. You pay somebody else to murder them for you. So that means you don't get your hands dirty, right? So you don't commit those acts. There's lots of loopholes and jump through holes. That, when you're rich and powerful, right? You don't have to abide by those laws because there's ways around it when you have the money.
Yes. Can I say something quick, my friends? Basically, is a job interview for the highest court of the land. And, when Democrat Klobuchar says she was shocked by the way Kavanauh conducted himself during his emotional testimony. And we have seen, the way, it means he is under alcohol or he has some addictions to some other drugs or, also alcoholism, because a normal person like me and you and others that we are very drug-free, I'm not shouting at you guys, or you are not shouting at me.
If I was accused of assaulting somebody and I thought that people were just plotting against me and there was no basis for it, yeah, I would sound like that. I would be outraged. And, I'd be outraged. I'd be yelling.
Maybe you, but I don't. In my case, I would still keep my calm, and then if necessary, we go through the, we are law-abiding citizens of the world. So if anything happens, there is a law of the land. We go through the law of land, and then we do it.
Right.
But yes.
Here's the problem with what you're saying.
Very powerful, like very wealthy and powerful to court. Remember, they always somehow come up with witnesses. And if you were getting paid $1 million to come to court and stand in front of the court, be one of the witnesses and just make up a story, whatever the story they told you to, because you're getting paid $1 million to be so and so witness. You do it, of course you do. Many people would,
There's already $500,000 in the GoFundMe account for Blasey Ford. She's very well connected to the anti-abortion pill company. She has relatives, married people in her family to the Strutz, Peter Strutz. I'm sure you're aware of who Peter Strutz is. Her husband and other people work with National Defense and other CIA and other groups. There's far more. They're not asking the important questions. And going back to what you were stating, if you were accused of rape after having spent the last 35 years of your life building something with a family and with a career that has an impeccable record, and then you're being accused and you've been calm all week long getting shot down, and then you're given 45 minutes to fight for your life. I think your calmness would be quite different. Very different.
No. I tell you what I will do, my friends. What I will do if I was Kavanauh for the best of country, I don't want civil war in my country. I would resign. I said, let somebody else comes and take my place. That's fine. Because at this time, we are going to divide the nation more and more and more and more to the time of the point of no return, and a civil war comes to the United States, and then will be end of America. For that reason, I love this country. I will take my nominations off. That would be the best of interest of the country. What do you think?
your sentiment is commendable. I respect that. Here's the problem. They are so against him because he's Trump's pick. This is how they will do any person on the right, anybody of a Republican persuasion. If now, we could say, okay, well, you know what? They want the power. Give them the power so we don't have a civil war. Here's the problem. Here's what I see happening if we step aside and just give the Democrats what they want. They want to see that anytime a man is accused of something by a woman, he is assumed guilty. They want to get rid of free speech that disagrees with their position. And I'm saying maybe not the regular Democrats. These are the guys in power. They want laws to be different depending on what your race is. They want to highly regulate businesses. And these things, I'm not okay to see the country go in those directions.
We have news that Christine Blasey, for a lawyer, say that the FBI has not contacted her about Kavanaugh's investigation yet, despite Donald Trump ordering probe to be completed within a week. So it's news kind of is still. Some say it's already FBI investigated, and we have news that it's not investigated yet. So we have to yet and see within the next 24, 48 hours to see what will happen.
Whether that's true or not, the fact remains she should have filed a report to the police years ago, and not be dependent on the fact that he's in an important situation that affects.
Well, let me put it this way.
Don, Mr. Don, go ahead, sir. Go ahead, sir, Don, from Republic, Democrat.
You were saying he should lay down and save the country. What he's doing is, if he lays down, he's conceding, and basically the war has already begun. It's not going to go to war. There is a fight between both parties for the control of either a global, political, financial, one-world government, or otherwise independent, strong countries, which is Donald Trump is promoting. That's why he knocked off the NAFTA agreement. That's why he's basically been splitting up what NATO was doing as a united front to consolidate economics. And that's where a lot of the kickbacks come back from the EPA, through NATO, through foundations, charities, and he's upsetting that power with Saudi Arabia, where a lot of money was laundered. And if he fails, this is why Feinstein and other people and Republicans want him out, like McCain. It's because he's interfering with that money grab that they have. Does he make a lot of money? Absolutely. But he's also spreading the love around. So there are other issues, I think, that we haven't examined carefully.
Again, right now, anyway, I think in United States is very, very tense with race, color, greed, and etc. keep going on. And this race issue and division, because they divide and conquer us. From the first day this beloved country came to exist, and they divide and conquer, and they rule. And who are the behind the scene? That's how they are doing it. And we think this time they want really martial law to be declared in the United States. I think that if very well, maybe there will not be an election in November here, or if it's an election, then for sure the 2020 there will not be an election in the United States, and Donald Trump will declare himself king of the United States forever. What do you think?
I don't
see the evidence for that.
Donald Trump wants us out of North Korea in those areas. He wants us out of Iraq. He wants us out of Syria. He is pulling people. Remember when he said he stopped patrolling in those areas and everyone was upset? Why is he leaving that alone? He wants America to be strong. His policy is to get out of those areas. And actually, he even told them at the UN, the last one, remember, he said, we're not going to tell you how to run your government. You need to run things the way you want to.
But is that still American people living paycheck to paycheck? Is that America great still, my friend? I don't think so.
America
it doesn't matter, Donald.
Why is America the greatest economy in the world? Do we exploit? Yes, but
okay.
Are there other,
we give
are there
60% money to other countries. We give and we don't take care of our citizens. Yes, America is very great, my friend.
If you can find me somebody who's better than Trump for 2020, hey, something's better is always better. But if any of the Democrats that are leaders right now, I am really concerned if they come to power. I do not see, especially the social democrat crowd. There's some scary stuff that they're pushing. So I see us going down a pretty authoritative road.
Have you
from
been
them.
in France? Have you been in Germany? Look at it. So clean city. Cars are clean. People are clean. Singapore is the cleanest city in the world.
I would rather freedom than clean.
Yeah, what kind of freedom do you have? Tell me, what do you have a Second Amendment?
Well,
you don't have it.
Singapore is considered one of the most free countries in the world. You're still talking about fairly free countries, France, Germany, where there's lacking freedom. Things are pretty bad, like Venezuela and China and North Korea especially. We don't have enough freedom. I want more, absolutely.
If the United States was not the presence or the power that it was, you'd be speaking Chinese or Russian. And that's just history. That's the direction it was going without our free presence. And the thing is, we don't take over these countries. We actually set them up and leave and put money into Japan. We put money into Germany.
That's right.
We don't go
all over the world. We put finger into ass of every nation. We put finger into ass of nation. It doesn't matter. Donald Trump is in charge or not. He talks nice, but at reality, still he does anything before doing. He doesn't do anything different, my friend. He's a sham. Everything is sham. Everything is sham. You guys don't believe it.
You don't need a large American forces to control Japan. I mean, once you take it over from the top, it's you already have it. Trust me.
You guys, I gotta close the show out now. Otherwise, it's gonna take Barbara too much time. We've been going 2 hours and 15 minutes. So, does anyone have any final last thoughts?
No, just the bottom line is everything is tense in the United States. I hope tension comes down between the people and the government, and government and the people. Tension comes down, and between the Democrats and Republicans. And really, democracy is not just for two-party system. We should have at least 50-party system, and that means real democracy. Otherwise, two-party system, 8 years of Republican and 8 years of Democrat, and this kind of bullshit is not democracy. Democracy, look at to other countries. Learn democracy first. We never had a democracy, and we will never have
pathetic.
democracy.
You're right.
I agree,
yes.
And I was trying to say a while ago, and I didn't get a chance to talk. But yeah, the Democrats and Republicans are the two-party system. They're basically
it's bullshit. It's a sham.
And it doesn't matter who you vote for. It doesn't matter who you vote for, if it's Democrat or Republican, because they both get money by many major millionaires. I mean, you got Goldman Sachs, you got the Lehman Brothers. They both funded the Democrats and the Republicans back and forth, even at the same time.
Amen.
So
Amen.
You got rich people giving money to Democrats and Republicans at the same time. So it doesn't even matter. They're both basically big corporate parties, and you want to have.
Wait, Albert said that all along.
Yes. And and I don't like the two party. I prefer any other third party. I mean, there's the Reform Party, the Freedom of American Party, Constitution Party. There's the Green Party. There's the Libertarian Party, and I can go on and go on. No, all the third parties out there. It's completely ignored.
Okay, you guys. Somebody has background noise.
I know. You're
okay,
right.
Thanks for participating tonight. I'm cutting over to the song. Good night, you all, and I'll see you next week. Good night.
All right, good night.
Thank you.
I've been sold. God's on the line and my life's on hold. How come the things you learn in life can't help you when you're old? She's got the cushion for the pushing of the love seducers. When she's talking to me, I know she's looking at there is no other, no need to question why. She's always on the phone talking to another guy. Okay, honey. This is gonna hurt me bad. This is gonna hurt me. God's on the line and my life's on hold. Don't believe what people say, 'cause their lives are all the same. God's on the line and my life's on hold. When you think that something's up, better watch out for the train.